Joining us now, after his big victory on Tuesday night, one of only 3 Republicans standing in Virginia, the crowd is getting small. The caucus, they used to have this big caucus. Now it's a tiny little 3-person caucus. And with us now is Congressman, just reelected from the 1st District, easily reelected, Rob Wittman. Congressman, great to have you.
Good morning, John. Good morning, John. It's actually four Republicans.
Oh, 4, that's right. I forgot about Ben.
I don't want to shrink our numbers any more than what they are. So
that's right, Ben.
It'll be myself, Morgan Griffith, Ben Klein, and Denver Riggleman. But we will make sure that we're up in Washington doing the job. So.
Well, that's good. I forgot.
You were right. Three in addition to myself. I got you. So.
Yeah, 3 in addition to yourself. That's why I said you would have 3 other people on the caucus. But that's okay. So there's a lot to talk about. So Nancy Pelosi's taken over. So walk us through your situation. So you were chairman of the subcommittee on Sea Power Readiness. Does this mean you're not chairman now? How does this whole thing work?
Well, John, when the other side takes power, then they have the ability to chair the committee. So, yes, that means that I will no longer be chairman of the Sea Power and Projection Forces Subcommittee. What I hope is that I will be selected as the ranking member, which is the senior minority member on that subcommittee. So that's what I'm hoping, and, of course, we'll go through the same process we would go through in competing to become chairman now to become the ranking member. But there is the ability to direct and get things done when you are chairman. Not quite as much when you're ranking member, although the gentleman that I worked with there, Congressman Joe Courtney from the state of Connecticut, is a great member, and when we did things together on Sea Power and Projection Forces before, it was based upon agreement between both of us, so I made sure that I worked with him so the things we were doing were in agreement with both of us, and I know Joe, and I'm confident that that's how the subcommittee will be run going forward, and I'm assuming that Joe will assume the reins as the chairman there since he was the ranking member previously and is coming back for another term.
Okay, so you built a relationship with your ranking member, Joe from Connecticut, when he was the ranking member, and you were the chairman. Now you're flipping it, but you've got that relationship built, and you sought his counsel and input before you went forward with anything. So one would expect that the same relationship would continue, just flipped over, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Joe's, as I said, a great member. He and I work together on things, and we always work to the point where we agree. So the things that we're putting forward are issues that both of us know are important, and both of us know need to be accomplished. And both of us did the same thing in reaching out to our members on the committee. So I expect that relationship to continue. And the good thing is that Joe and I are in agreement on most things, and if there is a difference, it's not on the ends, but sometimes on the means. And we are, always looking at what we can do to be on the path to rebuild our Navy, to make sure we have a healthy shipbuilding industrial base, and Joe and I have that common interest, and that's, John, that's foundational to what is necessary for this nation in order for us to have the Navy that we need and the industrial base that we need to sustain this nation's Navy.
All right. Well, I think I don't see a lot of change there based on what you said, and I appreciate your sharing that with us, Congressman Wittman. Let's get to this caravan, the wall, asylum. The president doing an executive order last night. We expect it to be challenged as soon as he signs it, or he announced that he's going to do a proclamation narrowing the pathway or the ability for people to gain asylum. And one of the main things is right now you can get into the country illegally and then claim asylum. What he wants to do is make it so that you have to go to a port of entry and you basically stay out of the country until that asylum is granted. Now, this is going to be challenged immediately. How do you think it'll play out?
Well, John, I think what everybody should look at in the system is how do we make sure that we create order in the system? How do we make sure that we don't have the chaos that can ensue when you have lots of people that are mad? And then a system, too, where people that are seeking asylum, are crossing illegally and then trying to find Border Patrol agents. That's not how it should work. Now, along with that, I think what needs to happen is there needs to be a much larger number of immigration judges to be able to quickly adjudicate these cases to make a determination about whether somebody has a legitimate claim under the law for asylum. And I want to go back, to a number that I had mentioned last week. Remember, we talked about the number of people that cross the border illegally are given a notice to go to an immigration court to have their claim for asylum adjudicated, and I had said that about 85% of those individuals do not show up to court. And I want to clarify that, because that was a number that Congressman Bob Goodlatte, who is chairman of the Judiciary Committee, had made in one of our conferences back in 2014. And the comment that he made was an anecdotal piece of information that he got when he visited the McAllen Border Patrol Station in the Rio Grande Valley that year. Subsequent to that, looking at the data that's out there from places like the Center for Immigration Studies, what we see, if you look at it over the past 20 years, about 37% of those that are crossing fail to appear for their hearings. So about 2.5 million foreign nationals outside detention during their court proceedings. Of those, about 1.2 million were ordered removed. The clarifying point is that 75% of them were ordered removed because they failed to appear. Only 25% of them actually litigated their claim. So that's the more direct number. So looking at how many people are essentially removed in absentia. In other words, the reason they're removed is because they don't appear before an immigration court judge. And again, it's one of those things that goes right back to the issue of let's have a system where people's claims can be quickly adjudicated and be adjudicated there at these ports of entry, so there's not the effort to or for them to enter the country in other places illegally. I think the president is just trying to create some order to this situation and forcing, too, for the debate to happen about how do we make our immigration system work. And what's happening right now is that, obviously with people coming to the border, seeking Border Patrol agents, and then being caught and released and then having to show back up for a hearing is not the orderly way to go about it. You'd like for them to come in through a port of entry, to have that hearing, for that case to be adjudicated, and for those people to either be here with that status that comes with a claim from the court saying that their asylum request is being granted, or that it's not, and that they are immediately returned back across the border or to their country of origin.
They have to get repatriated. So what about the president's proclamation that he's going to sign today, which is going to be challenged like within minutes, and there'll be a stay on it that's going to get to the Supreme? The crux of this is he's saying, if you want to apply for asylum, go through one of the 80 ports of entry. Do it the right way. You just can't come into the country illegally, because the thing is, you only claim asylum if you get apprehended. It's not that they come in illegally and then go find a Border Patrol agent and say, hey, come over here, I want to claim asylum. It's only if they're apprehended that they claim asylum. Congressman, that's the problem.
That is, it's just not an orderly system, John. And listen, I think that everybody in this country, regardless of how they look at immigration, wants an orderly immigration system. We need a border that's secure. We need an orderly and thoughtful immigration system to where if people are claiming asylum, that their claim can be heard and can be quickly adjudicated and determined. Is it a claim that stands under the law, and if it is, then they are admitted and given that ability as temporary protective status, which is what they're given to remain here legally, or that they are, as you said, that their claim is denied and that they're repatriated back to their country of origin. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work. It doesn't make sense for folks to, as you said, cross illegally and then find a Border Patrol agent, and then in some instances, if they don't, the question then becomes, do those folks show up somewhere at an immigration court to make a claim of asylum? And of course, that's not a number that I'm aware that's out there to be able to determine that, because it's an indeterminate number, because you can't identify those folks that weren't able to cross, the pass with a Border Patrol agent or ask for the opportunity to go to an immigration court to seek an asylum claim.
You're right. I mean, look, the system is broken. Hopefully, through the president's proclamation, there'll be a Supreme Court ruling. Through some kind of a compromise now in the Democratic Congress, we can solve this. I don't think it's going to be solved easily, though, because we've been arguing for some time. The president asking for the resignation of Jeff Sessions on Wednesday, the day after the midterms. And in place now is Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Already, Senator Warner has gone bananas over it, saying that it could lead to a constitutional crisis. Let me just ask you something, Congressman. Doesn't the president have a right to choose people in his cabinet that he wants in his cabinet? Don't they serve at the pleasure of the president? I mean, I don't know where Warner's coming from on this.
Well, yeah, the president has that constitutional authority to appoint individuals into these positions based upon his wishes. Now, there is a confirmation process. He has, though, appointed this person as interim. So the question will be, who does he select as the permanent attorney general? But this is an interim appointment. People are alluding to comments that he had made. But remember, making comments, John, is different than actually performing in the position. I mean, there are statutory requirements and limitations in serving in the position. You can give your opinion, but in this particular situation, it's a matter of separating opinion from what the job would be that he's being placed in as Attorney General. So, and I understand there's going to be back and forth about what his comments were and whether that's going to affect his job, but as I've said, comments are different than actually being placed in that position of responsibility, and then the actions that you pursue under the direction of the law and the statutory scope and authority of the Attorney General. That's very, very different than giving an opinion.
I agree with you. I think that's spot on. He's made comments. Let's see how he performs his duties. Now, he's interim, right? So the president has not officially nominated him.
No, he has not. And remember, he's been previously confirmed for a position. So, from my understanding, and I will stand corrected if I am wrong, but from my understanding is since he has been previously confirmed, that in an interim position, he doesn't have to be reconfirmed. So he can serve in that interim position until such time as the president makes his nomination, and then that goes before the Senate for confirmation.
And he could very well be the nominee, right?
He could be. Yeah, there's a lot of conjecture out there about who the nominee will be. But yes, he could absolutely be the nominee.
What is the first thing you can accomplish with a Democratic-controlled Congress? Give me one thing you think you guys can actually get done in a bipartisan manner.
Well, John, I'm going to go right to what we've been doing to continue to rebuild our nation's Navy and make sure that our Navy Marine Corps team has what they've had. Again, based on that relationship, I think that Mr. Courtney and myself are in agreement. I think a lot of members on the House Armed Services Committee are in agreement. So I think that we can achieve another year of significant progress in rebuilding our Navy and making sure our Navy Marine Corps team has what they need.
All right, Rob Wittman, Congressman, reelected to another term. What term would this be? How long have you been there?
This would be, let's see, John, the sixth full term.
Okay, so Rob Wittman reelected to a sixth term Republican Congressman, 1st District of Virginia. Great victory there in a sea of not other people in Virginia doing very well, but you did extremely well, and we'll see how it plays out. Thank you, Congressman. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks so much, John. Thanks for having me on.
Go to whitman.house.gov. Campaign's over. whitman.house.gov. More information.